Edmonton, capital of the Canadian province of Alberta, is the most northerly large city on the continent, with a population exceeding 370,000. Supporting itself as a wheat-growing and industrial center, Edmonton was long known as the gateway to the north, from which men took off for the subarctic and the Arctic to seek riches in furs and minerals. Not until 1947, when oil in quantity was struck nearby, did Edmontonians learn that they were sitting astride a grid of oil fields, among the richest on the continent. And from then on, the city entered a continuing era of prosperity. Some 250 air miles northeast of Edmonton, on the Athabasca River, lies Fort Mcmurray, a settlement named for a fur trader of the mid-19th century. After the site was visited by an earlier fur trader, Pt1, in the 18th century, it became a gateway to the still farther north. Fort Mcmurray existed for generations as a fur trading post and as a jumping-off point for missionaries, trappers, traders, Royal Canadian Mounted Policemen, government officials, explorers, and eventually mineral seekers as well. By the early 1920s, the community had rail connection with Edmonton, but no through motor road. Just south of Fort Mcmurray was established a railhead depot called Waterways, from which northward bound passengers and freight arriving by train from Edmonton proceeded downstream aboard steamers plying the Athabasca and connecting streams to distant outposts. By the early 30s, Fort Mcmurray had become a base for bush planes, which took off from the Athabasca or the confluent Clearwater River, with passengers, mail, and freight heading for more northerly outposts. Always, Fort Mcmurray was a way station for people going somewhere else. But not for everybody. Peter Pond in the 18th century had observed Indians caulking their canoes with strange bituminous sands peculiar to the region, outcroppings of which occurred along the riverbanks. Canadian government geologists investigated these outcroppings as far back as 1875. One of them, of a later generation, SCLs, pioneered the use of the tar sands as paving material for Edmonton streets in 1915. Research work was continued by other geologists and engineers. An early attempt at commercial development was made by Max W. Ball, a petroleum geologist and engineer who, with Canadian capital, started building a plant a mile south of Fort Mcmurray in 1936. In 1940, under the banner of Abasand Oils Limited, the plant went into operation to recover oil from the mined sand. Work at the Abasand plant was overshadowed by events in the summer of 1942. Suddenly, there was great activity in the area. United States engineer troops poured into Waterways and Fort Mcmurray to expedite the building and launching of barges for the shipment of thousands of tons of equipment and supplies for a great wartime defense project called Canol, short for Canadian Oil. Canol was designed and carried out to develop an oil field near the Arctic Circle on the Mackenzie River and to transport the oil by pipeline 600 miles across the Mackenzie-Yukon Divide to Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory, to be refined there and then to be distributed up and down the Alaska Highway to fuel planes and trucks. The irony of it was that just as Edmonton had been regarded as the gateway to the north when it could also have been an end itself, Fort Mcmurray and its environs could have been tapped as the source of one of the greatest deposits of oil the world has ever known. But it was a matter of timing. The time was still 25 years away. During and following World War II, research went on unremittingly with Athabasca's tar or oil sands. One of the scientists who pioneered in oil sand, Dr. K.A. Clark of the Research Council of Alberta, said in the early 50s, companies with plans ready ahead of time will be in an advantageous position to profit from what has the earmarks of a development of major proportions. Such a company was Sun Oil, and through its subsidiary, Great Canadian Oil Sands Limited, known as GCOS, it engaged Canadian Bechtel Limited in December 1962 to make a comprehensive study of the technical and economic feasibility of a large-scale plant. The study, completed in July 1963, concluded that the project was feasible and recommended a field test program to obtain design criteria for the extraction process, and also to gain experience in the handling of the oil sands. No time was lost. A site was cleared close to the northward flowing Athabasca River at Tar Island, 20 miles downstream from Fort McMurray. Here in the wilderness, a test plant was built. It went into operation in October of 1963, producing a substantial quantity of bitumen. In this field laboratory, over 1,000 experiments were carried out over a period of 2 years by GCOS and Bechtel, and under practical conditions, problems of the extraction process were solved. A project office was opened in Edmonton, where engineering and administration were carried on, with close cooperation between GCOS and all of the governmental agencies, both federal and provincial, that had to be dealt with. With offices in the field as well as in Edmonton, Bechtel supervised development of plant design, procured equipment and materials, maintained construction and scheduling controls, and conducted continuous on-site inspections. Using data gathered from years of research and the practical results of the pilot plant operation, engineers put together a scale model of the commercial plant, which was designed to produce 45,000 barrels per day of high-gravity synthetic crude oil. Once the details had been worked out, the model was broken down into individual units which could be reassembled at the job site, there to supplement drawings for the guidance of engineers and craftsmen. From the model, supervisors could work out the arrangement of piping and structures and determine how best to plan rigging operations. By the summer of 1964, the plant site was being graded after trees, brush, and muskeg had been cleared away. Earth moving, including raw tar sand for access roads, went on continuously. Over 1 million cubic yards of material had to be shifted. The number of men at the plant site kept expanding toward a peak of more than 2,300, nearly all of them Canadians, many from Fort McMurray and the Edmonton area, many from other parts of Canada, and many who were new citizens from other countries, nearly all of them living as well as working at the job site.